if we lose another one, it'd be just devastating. And so much of that is because of the PTSD of last year. During that time of unbelief, I thought BYU was going to only lose one game. Now here we are. It's really realistic they could only lose one. And I don't have that much faith. I'll be real.
Hello and welcome to the Updated Podcast Studio. This is the Loyal Cougars Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Edmonds, alongside Tosh McIntosh. You'll notice if you're watching on YouTube, but we've got a third body in the room with us. Jake Hatch joining us. What is this, like your third or fourth time on the show?
Apparently you guys like me enough, you've invited me back multiple times.
Just enough. Just like a little bit enough that we got to get you back. We had Drake on last week from Locked On Big 12. It seemed like a decent time to bring you in, Locked On BYU. Locked On Cougars, actually, right?
That's okay.
We can't say BYU. You can't say BYU in the show.
We called it Locked On BYU originally, and then a certain university got upset about it.
Something about licensing and all that stuff.
Yes.
Real quick, let's take care of some items of business. We've got the drop this week. I don't know the names of these things. I didn't look them up, but these are you got this basketball T-shirt with a little silhouette of a player. It says Cougar Basketball and Rise and Shout, I think, on the bottom. This one's in black. I think it probably comes in different colors. And then this, I think, Jake, you said this was like a goth.
Well, that's kind of the gothic script, like the old school. Remember, like the Danny Ainge era uniforms? That's that script.
Exactly. This classic Danny Ainge era, Brigham Young on the front. It's a hat, royal blue or navy blue hat, Y on the side. I actually really like this. Maybe I'll keep this or give it to.
And then this is nice. If you can feel this, top quality linens here. BYU Cougars with Steve Young, right? And this is a hoodie, so really nice, warm hoodie, gift for the holidays. Cougar Board merch is where you find all of this stuff. We are hosted by Cougar Board, so we will push their nice merch that them and TrueWear are making, and 3 nice items this week.
Head over to store.cougarboard.com, pick up your Cougar Board merch. All right, Jake, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is not, so we've had you on the show before, and Tosh has been on the show before. You guys have not been on the show together.
Correct.
However, there's kind of a story here. So I'll kind of lay the foundation for Tosh.
Yeah.
Tosh has been on the same show as you, but not necessarily intentionally. And I'll let Tosh kind of share his side of the story here.
So funny story from last week. So our loyal listeners will know last week we had Drake C. Toll. Locked On Big 12 was on the show, and we had text groups that we were texting him before the show. We were texting him after. One of his hot takes last week was that he thought 3 Big 12 teams would be able to get into the playoffs, and he talked about Utah kind of sneaking in if they were ranked high enough. And then the college football playoffs rankings come out, and he looked very prophetic because Utah was 13th. Path was there for 3 teams to get in. I send a text in this text thread saying, man, you called it. That's amazing. And he thumbed up it or something. And then 10 minutes later, me, Jake Edmonds over there, and then the guy behind the computer that helps us with the show, Sean, we're in this text group with him, and he sends, it just says, I am the one who knocks. And then there's this link. And I'm like, And so I click the link, and it's obvious that it's like an invite to like a podcast group gathering link.
Well, let me pause there. So my side of the story is I see that text and I say, what is this? Like, what is this for? Because we had just gone on with Drake.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So we thought Drake being this prophetic guy, like having this awesome take that ended up being right. We thought, maybe he just wants to talk about it, like in a live segment or whatever. So hold on. I say, what is this?
Yeah.
And Drake, I think Drake was like, no, like that wasn't meant for you. Tosh doesn't see this.
So I just see that link and think, he wants to do a little recording of us talking about the college football rankings.
Okay. No, I can fill in the gaps once you finish, so continue. I can fill in the gap on me.
I think, he just wants to talk about the text I just sent him, and man, he was right about these rankings.
Yeah.
And so I jump into, and although I do this podcast weekly, usually with Jake, I'm in my house right now does not set up for this. So I'm like, where am I going to do this? And I just dive into, okay, I got to find a backdrop. I'm looking for a flag. I'm tearing my kids' rooms upside down. I find some jerseys, throw them up. They're falling off the walls. And I'm scramble mode. My son's helping me. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I just got to go without a backdrop. And my son's like, well, just tell him you can't do it. And I'm like, no. Like, when someone invites me to do something, I do it, or else they'll stop inviting me. Like, I'm going to hop on.
I get it, yeah.
So I just hop on with no backdrop, and then I see this is not like a little thing. That every single Locked On host in the Big 12 is there,
except one.
The man next to me, and
somebody was stuck in traffic on their way home.
They're all like official and have the backdrops and have the things under the names, and then also too, so right now I'm building my house I'm moving into, so I'm currently in a rental, and my internet is not up to what I would want it to be, and the audio that I'm hearing is horrible. I can see all these hosts, but I am getting like him wow, like I can hear like what we got and it's like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if when I speak, but I just jump in and say, hey, like happy to be here, pretty crazy rankings. Not sure if you guys can hear me, my audio, and I get a thumbs up, but then he keeps talking. And I'm just all cut up, and I'm thinking, this is bad. Like, he could ask me a question, and I have no idea.
He's never inviting me
happening.
again.
And I'm just like, crap. And so I'm just kind of sitting there thinking, messing with the settings and trying to get the audio to, like, come through better. And then Jake...
I got home and
Jake Hatch hops on.
Yeah.
And I can see his face is kind of surprised to see me there. And then also Drake, I can hear again in this cut up thing saying, hey, we had Tosh hop on while you were stuck in traffic. And I then make the decision, I'm grateful on this, that I'm like, okay, I just need to bail while the bailing's good. So I give one more take and say, hey, I'll let Jake run it from here and talk about how I think that the Big 12 is in a good place. The committee set the stage that I think 2 or 3 teams can get in. Hop off. And then I tell my son, well, that could have gone worse. That was horrible with the audio. And then I go downstairs, find my phone that I had put down as soon as I went into scramble mode.
Yeah.
And then I keep reading these texts of, soon as I got the invite, I just put the phone down and go. Jake's much smarter. He says, hey, is this for us? What's this?
Yeah.
Drake is like, no, like, sorry, wrong guys.
So,
and I just hop on like a crazy man.
So to fill in the gaps, we have a Locked On Big 12 host thread, like with a text with all the guys on it.
Yeah.
Drake sends that link every week to that thread.
Does he ever say, I am the one who knocks?
Yeah, he says all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay.
So he probably just pulled up the first thread. He probably saw Jake, honestly, and assumed it was that one and sent it to you guys. And then it's like, oh crap! So that's how it all went down. So
you guys gotta name your. He's got to name your group chat.
Well, we do have a name for it. It's called Locked On Big 12 Hosts. Like it's what it is. Like it exists. It also has a Taco Bell logo. If you guys know the story, you'll know what we're talking about.
Burrito?
Yes.
Burrito story. Okay. You guys. That's like.
Well, we had
last year.
Yeah, but we had the guy on St. Fake.
Wasn't he wearing a bag or something?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So we've had that Taco Bell logo as our group chat logo forever.
So anyway, I've looked back and been embarrassed and laughed about that all week, and it could have gone way worse. And then when the show came out, I watched it, and I'm just cringing. Like, he's not expecting me. Everyone's like, what's this random dude doing on here? It could have gone way worse, but it was still
you did great.
I just pirated their show for a few minutes and then hopped off.
You did great, man. So
see, and knowing you, like when you because I didn't know that until this morning. You told me this morning. I thought it was intentional. Like I thought you knew that Drake said
crazy enough that I'd think to do, but that was not what happened.
Yeah. You know? Very much your personality to just like, I'm just gonna do it anyway. Like, I'm just gonna hop on the show and start talking about BYU.
That's so awesome. I love that. So anyways, that's just him singing to the wrong group thread.
So this is we're giving Jake a chance to kind of return the favor and invade our show.
Happy to do it.
You can give your takes now on our show.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get into the meat of what we're talking about now, and a little bit unfortunate that we're talking after a loss. I think this is our first. Tosh, this is our first time talking after a BYU football loss, right?
Correct.
We started.
It was a basketball show to begin with, and then Colorado.
Well, our first show, I think, was post Colorado.
Okay,
Alamo Bowl.
Wow, so you guys have had quite a run then with football.
Oh yeah,
yep.
We're not used to this.
Yeah. So Texas Tech loss. I want to start with kind of what went wrong, and I think the obvious, overall high level answer is something was wrong with offense and special teams. Now the question is, was BYU just kind of exposed? Were they kind of a fraud coming in, or is Texas Tech just that good?
I'll say Texas Tech is that good. First off, like that team is playoff caliber. Like playoff can win games in playoff. Like that's how good Texas Tech is. Now, that being said, Special teams had its worst performance in I don't know how long.
It's horrible.
Yeah, Kelly Papinga was on Coordinator's Corner. He says that they have 10. He said there's 10 benchmarks they try and hit every week on special teams. He said the worst they'd done this year was 8 of 10. You know what Texas Tech's benchmark was?
5.
4 of 10.
Yeah.
Off. And he said, I saw a guy like Sam Vanderhoof. I've never seen shank a punch, shank 2 of them in that game.
One for like 19 yards or
Exactly. And so he said that it was just a bad day. And the offense, well, let's be honest, it looked like a tentative, conservative game plan going in, and it did not allow them to have a chance to win.
Yeah. So I agree that because you set the stage.
Yeah.
BYU's defense stops them 3 and out.
Yes.
And looked real good.
Yeah.
And then you muff that punt, and really you just know you're giving them points.
Correct.
Luckily, our defense held them to 3, and it was like, okay, that's actually a big win, but still. And then that 19-yard punt, and then all of a sudden it looks like we're going to score, and we miss a field goal. And then it's just like, and the drops.
Yes.
It's Texas Tech is freaking good. They are not unbeatable, but if you're going to beat them, you can't be making more than maybe – I'm not going to say you have to play perfect, but you can't make 6 bonehead plus mistakes, and BYU did.
Yeah. And I think of plays like the missed field goal. There was even the kind of the small things when you look back. There was a play where Bear handed it off. I think it was to LJ. It might have been Preston Rex on the inside. He had an open lane if he keeps it. I think late in the handoff, he tried to keep it.
It was David Bailey played it perfectly. He stayed wide enough, just long enough, and he has elite closing speed that he forced Bear into the look, like hand it, and then Bear's like, oh crap, I got to, and he couldn't pull it at that point.
Yeah, and so they don't score on that drive, and that would have been probably a 10, 12-yard gain. Obviously, Parker's muff. JoJo had a drop that would have been probably 20 yards.
Because that was an elite play by Bear.
Yeah.
He scrambled. He sets his feet, throws a freaking dime right into JoJo's chest, and it's just a drop.
And then there was Chase's drop, right? And Chase's drop was a little more acceptable, I think. But in terms of like what we expect out of Chase, this was the one where he jumps probably 5 feet in the air. I feel like to get this ball, hits him in the hands, bounces off down the sideline. Again, it would have been a really tough play, but it would have been a monumental play in terms of like the impact plays, the big plays, right? The 15+ yards passing, 10+ yards running. This would have been one of, I think they had 4 in the game, right? So it would have been another one. They just didn't have very many of those. Yeah. And so you can look back at the individual plays. Here's why I kind of struggle with that. First of all, it wasn't a close game, and so it's once you're nitpicking individual plays, it's hard to say like, oh, this individual play would have made this big of an impact. Obviously, like the plays earlier on, maybe make a bigger ripple effect down the road of the game, but they got blown out. The bottom line is they got blown out, and even the 7 points at the end came in garbage time. They essentially got shut out, blown out. And then you can also look at Texas Tech's mistakes too, and say like, they had a wide open or 2 passes in the end zone dropped. Yeah. And so it's I don't think it's fair to really say BYU would have won this game or even made it close had those plays gone a different way, those 4 or 5 plays that we listed. But I do think it kind of illustrates that BYU still has a lot to clean up, and if they do, the potential is there, right? I think they lose a lot of momentum in those plays.
Well, so it was a comprehensive defeat, and on my radio show that we do in Salt Lake City, Pablo Mastroeni is our RSL's head coach, Real Salt Lake, and he comes on often. He uses the phrase, games, or in his case, matches are made up of moments. He says if you win the vast majority of those moments, you're going to win more often than not. I don't think there's a single moment in this game that BYU won. You think about it. You talk about the offensive miscues. Think about the 2 missed interceptions, Evan Johnson and Trey Alexander. You got to come up with those. Those are moments that can completely change out ripple effects down the line. How different would it have been had Evan Johnson caught that pass instead of Aiken getting it? It was like a 50-yard gain. I counted 6 at least plays for Texas Tech that went 25+ yards. I call them explosives. They're number 1 in the country in explosive plays. Ohio State isn't going to have as many explosive plays as Texas Tech does on the season. And they owned every moment of this game. So it was a comprehensive defeat. So that's the difficult part about it, Jake, is that you look at it and say, okay, it could have been closer. I still don't think they win this game, even if they own some of those moments. But to your point, you have a lot to work on, a lot to clean up on. And that's the nice part. You have a chance to rebound now against TCU.
Absolutely. And I think we were shell-shocked. Yeah. I don't think we'd been able to impose our will
Absolutely.
in every game so far this season. There's a couple games early we weren't.
Yeah, at least in some moments.
But then we would be able to get that going. And what A-Rod's MO has been this year is let's pound the rock, let's slow the game down, let's rely on our defense, let's not make mistakes, and they will, and they're going to be huge because we've limited the game.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden we played against a team that I think had some better athletes. We didn't know that. I think we went in real confident that we could still do that again.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work, and it just compounded the problems. Like we looked like we were stubborn, continuing to run into the heart of their defense. But I just think it was because against every other team except Iowa State when he got hurt, we've been able to keep doing that, and then it works eventually.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point, which is I think LJ was still hurt. I think there was still some, obviously it's a shoulder injury.
We watched that game and look in his eyes after those first couple of hits.
The
pain is there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a warrior to even be playing out there. Trust me. The guys like Jack Kelly, they're still playing despite some pretty significant damage in those shoulders. They're absolute gladiators, but yeah, he's not 100%.
Well, and they only ran it 7 times in the second half, and I don't know how many of those were to LJ, but probably half or less, right?
Yeah.
I think Bear ran a couple, Preston Rex ran a couple. I think Nawahine even had a carry in the second half.
LJ only had 10 rushes in the whole game, so yeah.
So I think there was something wrong with LJ, and it's interesting too because LJ's first carry was like 10, 12 yards.
Yeah, it was right up the gut. It was like, oh, hey, yeah, okay.
Like, we've got a run game. Like, we're in good shape. And then after that, they had like nothing. And then only 7 carries in the second half. So I think that plays into kind of A-Rod's play calling ability is that he didn't really have, granted, I think they did go into the Texas Tech game knowing Tech has probably the best front 7 in the country.
Oh, that's,
if not,
the defensive line alone is awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then their linebackers, right? Their linebackers are potentially Heisman candidates, right? They're putting up Manti Te'o numbers. Mm-hmm. So I think they probably knew that going in. They did probably think that if LJ was healthy, he could compete with that front 7. Sure. And I think there was a play where we saw that as a possibility. But, whether it's because LJ was hurt or because Texas Tech, just decided we're going to shut down the run and they were able to throughout the entire game. Well, I guess ultimately I'd love to see a rematch to see if the same thing plays out.
It's hard to be a decent team twice, and BYU would have that going for them. And surely our coaches, that I think we have bright coaches, would have some wrinkles to put some different pressure on that team.
Well, and one thing that Arizona State beat Texas Tech, and Will Hammond started that game for Texas Tech. There was no Baron Morton in that game. But the one thing, and Patrick Kinahan, who I work with, he's a big ASU fan, pointed out, they beat him with the pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jake, on our rundown here, you mentioned this. It was what's the play disparity? 20 runs in the first half, 11 pass attempts, 7 runs versus 27 in the second half. When did BYU have their most success? I know it was in garbage time, but it was when they started chucking the ball all over the field.
Yeah.
That feels like the one chance you have against Texas Tech is essentially go almost air raid on these guys.
And you got to do it. It works better before you're behind.
Correct,
their pass rush is elite.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like with Utah. If they know they've got you where you have to pass, you're in trouble. But when you're ahead or you're close and they think they have to play 50-50 on defense, that's when your pass can really work.
Correct. So that may be the adjustment they make if they get this chance to rematch, is where they come out firing from the get-go and say, hey, you know what? We kind of like to go like 65-35 run to pass. It may be 65-35 pass to run.
There's no off-season for True Blue fans. That's why True Wear just dropped the Dual Threat Collection, a tribute to overlap between BYU football and basketball season, featuring the throwback Steve Young hoodie, the Cougar basketball tee, and the reflective Eagle hat. This lineup's built for fans who don't just pick favorites because they rep it all. From Lavelle's legacy to the hardwood hustle, this drop is 100% Cougar. Visit store.cougarboard.com to shop the Dual Threat Collection now before it disappears faster than a BYU fast break. This episode is brought to you by Aptiv Pest Control. Aptiv believes that every home should be enjoyed. They tailor their pest control treatment plans to target pests when and where they're most active. Plus, if you see pest activity between treatments, Aptiv will return to take care of the problem at no additional cost. It's their way of making sure every customer is satisfied and every pest is controlled. If pests stay away, Aptiv is why. Visit AptivPestControl.com/loyalcougars or call 844-966-4787. Mention this promotion to get your initial treatment for just $29. That's AptivPestControl.com/loyalcougars or call 844-966-4787. Get home field advantage with Aptiv. what encourages me is the way the defense played. And you actually mentioned in your podcast, I think it was this morning, that the defense wasn't. Now, granted, the offense and special teams were worse. I think you mentioned you weren't incredibly impressed with the defense. Am I?
Well, so the second half, the first half, they got their 4 sacks in the first half, and they did their thing. Second half, though, all of a sudden, the Texas Tech running game came to life. And if you take out sack yardage, which they need to change it to where the NFL, the sack yardage comes out of passing yardage, Texas Tech continues a trend that BYU's given up over 200 yards rushing for the 3rd straight game. That's Utah, Iowa State, and Tech. That's an unsustainable number. Yeah. Any defense is going to eventually, like they did, buckle under that pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it is problematic, and I agree in the second half. I do think they were a little bit gassed.
Oh, no, trust me, the offense left them out to dry in so many ways in that game. They eventually, the fact that they were, I think it was 2 of 7 in the red zone in terms of touchdowns for Texas Tech, that's an impressive number for BYU's defense. But eventually, you get worn down and you're going to break, and that's what happened.
Yeah. So just to break down real quick, what the defense did. So they did hold Texas Tech to 39% on third down. They were 7 of 18. As you mentioned, 4 field goals on 6 attempts in the red zone. Yeah. That's really good. That's now. I think that's probably Tech's Achilles heel, right?
They struggle in the red zone, yes.
Scoring touchdowns, right? They can score field goals. They don't score touchdowns in the red zone very well, and BYU held them to only 2 touchdowns in the red zone. In fact, I think it was 1 touchdown in the red zone. I think they went 1 trip without scoring.
Yeah.
They held Tech to 53 rushing yards in the first half. As you mentioned, the second half, that kind of fell apart and unraveled a little bit. I think by then the team had probably given up a little bit. And as I mentioned, they were probably gassed. All 4 sacks in the first half. They also, and this is kind of where it was problematic, and I think this is where kind of the second half comes in. The defense did allow 10 big plays, and I mentioned big plays before. Rushes of 10 or more yards, passes of 15 or more yards.
Sure, yeah.
So they gave up these chunk plays, and this is kind of a theme that we've seen throughout the season, which is this kind of bend, don't break mentality. Now, it's not an Elisa Tuiaki bend, don't break mentality.
Where you break a lot more than you bend? Okay.
Exactly. And Tuiaki was like, we're going to let him kill us with 1,000 paper cuts, right, or whatever. I don't know what the saying is.
Yeah.
Jay Hill is more like we're gonna take risks and maybe give up some big plays down the road. But when it comes to red zone defense, we're gonna still be aggressive and prevent them from getting in the end zone. So a little bit of a different mentality. But at the end of the day, it's kind of this bend don't break. But I think that's what the defense did. And the defense, I thought, at least in the first half, to go, what was it, 13-0 first half at halftime.
Yeah. Yep.
That you're putting your team in a position to win the game.
Correct.
And so to me, and Glasgow and Kelly were a big part of this. Obviously, 17 combined tackles, 3 total sacks. Was it Sarah had the other sack?
Sally had the other. So all 3 linebackers got the sacks, and that's a credit to those 3, by the way, who are all kind of battling different injuries. And that bye week apparently served them all very well because they looked refreshed. But also, BYU's defensive line in the first half, I thought, more than held its own. It's just the second half. Texas Tech went in the locker room, essentially figured out the calculus, and started really gashing BYU. And that's when things broke. And you're right. BYU's defense kept BYU in that game at halftime. To be 13-0, considering how one-sided it had been, you had to go in that locker room thinking, okay, we got a chance here. We got to figure some stuff out. And unfortunately, the second half just went from bad to worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's my question. Where the heck is Demooney at running back?
Well, that's a great question because I want to put out have you seen me post?
Yeah, there needs to be wanted signs.
Because I hear from A-Rod. I'm at practice every week. You guys know this. And A-Rod last week, we love Jovesta Demooney. He's a weapon. Why is he not playing?
Why is he the 4th string on your depth chart?
He looked like our 2nd most explosive running back.
I agree.
And he had that 1 fumble.
And we haven't seen him since.
And then they took him out behind the woodshed and murdered the poor guy.
It's witness protection program over here.
What has happened to him? And
do we call Witsec and ask where?
So either he's the worst practice player we've ever seen, or there's something going on. But he looks explosive. Let's get that guy the ball.
Yeah.
Because he's shown flashes of, hey, he's a playmaker. And right now, we are scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Let's give this guy a chance at running back.
Well, I love, the story of Preston Rex is cool, the fact he's taking on a new position and whatnot. Yeah. But he's still early on in his transition to playing running back.
And he's shown flashes as a receiver out of the backfield more.
Because he's a receiver growing up.
Okay.
You guys know the story of Miles Davis?
Yeah.
Now doing anything at Utah State. He's great right now at Utah State. He's had 5 years. He was a wide receiver all growing up. When he got to BYU, hey, you're going to play running back. And he's like, okay. And kind of feels like what's happening with Preston Rex. He needs time. The sad part is Sione Moa is still out, dealing with a leg issue that he came out with the ECU game. Enoch Nawahine is what he is. Yeah. I think he's a Mountain West level type player, and where Javessa Demuni just is the one thing I'm like, if you're going to praise him so heavily, why have we not seen him?
Yeah, and I'll even, while we're criticizing players, and this is more of like he's playing, right? A guy that we see playing. What is Keanu Tanavasa like? I understand that like a D tackle and a nose tackle's role is not necessarily to get TFLs and to get sacks, right? I mean, they do. They're meant to plug.
You're sacrificing a lot of stats when you play that position. Yes,
absolutely. But am I wrong in thinking like he's just?
You're not wrong, and I think the average BYU fan who's into it and thought we were going to get some more stats out of him than we've got so far. I don't think that's that's fair for sure.
And I'm not even saying stats, but like when I look at replays, I just like you don't even see him.
Impact. That's what you're sure. You're looking for impact, and it's been few and far between, honestly. And that's the unfortunate part because he was. Trust me, I talked to him. I went to the Big 12 media days and I interviewed him and say, "Hey, what is your future?" He's like, "I got 1 year here. Essentially, I'm going to the NFL," and I was like, okay, that's kind of notable.
That's what we want.
And it's like, great. That means he's going to have a monster year. That bravado and the actual production have not matched up.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Keanu. I think his leadership, obviously.
He's an incredible leader.
He's still a valuable asset to the team. But when it comes to on-field production, I just don't see a lot out of him. And again, that could just be me being a naive fan and thinking that like a nose tackle is actually like an impactful position.
Well, it can be, and it needs to be more impactful than it has been.
It feels like it should be, right?
Okay, one more player I'm going to ask.
Okay.
Carson Ryan was incredible at the beginning of the year, and then it doesn't seem like we're drawing up plays for him anymore.
He's been asked to sacrifice routes as part of the max protect
He's
scheme.
protected.
And he's an incredible blocker. He'll make the NFL, by the way, simply due to the fact that he blocks his you-know-what off. And that's, trust me, I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. George Kittle makes incredible plays. The best thing George Kittle does is block. Like, that's the incredible part about this. And that's what Carson's going to make. And he's sacrificed it in the name of keeping guys like.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I've seen him like mess up. He's real good. It just seems like we've pivoted and I think you're right. We started playing against teams with better pass rushes and just had to make a decision. Well, we need to max protect more than we need to do.
Did you guys see what happened on Saturday with him and Kean Need at one point? Do you remember the Robert Anai era offensive lines where they held hands?
Yeah.
They did that with Kean Need and Carson Ryan on a max protect multiple times. So essentially, Kean Need or Carson, who's ever closest to the tackle, had their hand on the tackle and was holding the hand of the other guy. And as soon as that movement happened, they knew to drop into pass protect.
Wow.
So they sacrificed heavily, and that's part of it for me was watching that game and rewatching it. Is that I think they came in with the idea we're gonna run 2-man routes, and they got to win those routes. They didn't really win those routes, and when they finally decided, you know what, okay, to heck with it, we're going 4 wide. We're gonna kind of run our passing game. That's when it finally opened up a little bit in the Texas Tech game. So if BYU gets another opportunity to rematch against Texas Tech, which I think all three of us want to see that happen, get another crack at them in the Big 12 title game, I think you'll see a whole different philosophy from BYU because I think they went in a little bit tentative and they paid the price.
I mean, I'd rather play West Virginia in the conference championship game.
Well,
but it's
okay.
Of likely scenarios, yes. Texas Tech would be awesome.
Here's one thing, and we'll tie into our host site, Cougar Board. Yeah. There's a Cougar Board post that brings up that in the fourth quarter, Bear went 12 for 13 for 107 yards and went 7 for 7 at one point. Yes, they were playing a different kind of defense.
The touchdown drive, he was 7 of 7.
But they still wanted to make plays. They still had pass rush. Like that is the only times the teams have been able to put pressure on them is when they're playing aggressive with their quarterback.
So, Jake, the one thing you pointed out here, because trust me, I had a bunch of people saying, why didn't they go more tempo in this game? You know what stops you from going tempo in college football?
Yeah, not getting first downs.
Not getting first downs. You know what their third down percentage was? Or what it was conversion-wise? 3 of 14.
Yeah, that's not good.
When you can't move the chains, you can't run tempo, period. Yeah. So so I completely understand that sentiment there. Like, what happened here? The problem was the money downs, as they call them, 3rd and 4th down. BYU was really poor on those downs. Yes, I think they could have tried some tempo maybe earlier on in this game, sure. But unless you can move the chains, you're just going 3 and out a lot faster than you typically do.
And I think the best way to sum up this game, and before we move on, is field position. BYU snapped the ball 14% of the time on Texas Tech side of the field. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech snapped it 59% of the time. And that's your game, right? Texas Tech was living on BYU side of the field because of shanks, because of muffed punts, because of big impact
three
plays,
and outs,
and average
and
starting,
because BYU 3 and outs. Exactly.
Average starting field position was the 41-yard line for Texas Tech in this game. BYU 23,
and that's fixable. I think that's fixable with you clean up some of your mistakes, you get a couple first downs. I think again, they got blown out. I don't think there's any denying that it's not going to take one or two plays to fix that game. It's going to take a holistic strategy. Much more than just a single play or two, but I think BYU can get there, and I want to see the opportunity for it to happen again.
Sure.
And so that brings us kind of to the next point, which is Big 12 scenarios, Big 12 championship scenarios. I think and it's pretty obvious, the most likely scenario as it stands today is Texas Tech and BYU again in the conference championship game. Yeah. So here's how that happens, right? This is assuming Texas Tech and Utah win out. If BYU wins out, they're in. Yeah, right? That's the obvious.
Winning, you're in. Simple as that.
If Cincinnati wins out, so BYU and Cincinnati control their own destiny. If Cincinnati wins out, they're in, right? Outside of that, there's kind of two other scenarios here. So if BYU beats Cincinnati but loses one of their other two games to TCU or UCF, BYU still has the tiebreaker over Cincinnati and Utah. So it kind of depends on what Houston does. I'm not going to get into those tiebreakers. We can just assume Houston's going to lose. I think that's probably a fair assumption. Yeah. If it doesn't happen, we can talk about tiebreakers later. But assuming that BYU beats Cincinnati but loses to one of the other two, BYU would have the tiebreaker in a three-way tie between Cincinnati and Utah because they beat both of them. Mm-hmm. If BYU loses to Cincinnati and Cincinnati loses another game, so they both end up with 2 losses still, but Cincinnati has the head-to-head over BYU, then it's coming down to a tiebreaker, and the tiebreaker after that looks at your conference opponents' overall combined record, right? So, correct. So you have to start looking at who did you play that the other two teams did not, right? So in BYU's case against Utah, for example, Utah played Arizona State. They're rooting for Arizona State to win the rest of their games. BYU is rooting for an Iowa State. So in total, BYU would be rooting for Iowa State, TCU, Arizona, UCF, and they would be rooting against Baylor, Arizona State, Kansas State, and Kansas. I actually did not look at Cincinnati's head-to-head or games that match BYU's in Utah, so there may be some crossover there. But I ran a bunch of simulations, and those are the team. Ultimately, really, if you want to just look at one team to root against, it's Arizona State.
Well, and okay, here's the other thing about this, Jake. That sounds super convoluted. You don't want any part of that. Just win. That's the whole thing. I try to read my podcast, simple math here. Win 3 games, and you're going to Arlington.
And there's with these simulations, there's a realistic possibility that Arizona State still gets in, right? If
trust me, the Big 12 last year was an absolute mess. It could get even worse this year,
and it could come down to, and fans are going to hate this, a coin flip.
Yeah. There's a tiebreaker.
It comes down to 7 tiebreakers, and the 7th tiebreaker is a coin flip.
Did you see the high school teams in Texas that had a coin flip earlier? It's actually this past weekend. 3 high school teams. I think it was in I don't remember what city it was. 3 high school coaches showed up at a gas station. They flipped 2 coins, and that's how they determined who got the playoffs. And the one team that was left.
It's horrible.
Out. But somebody tagged it. Friday Night Lights is a documentary.
Yeah.
So you don't want to avoid all of that. Simple math for BYU. Everybody out there, if you're listening, Just win.
Yep. Winning gives them 1 loss for the season in conference, and that gets them into the playoff or into the conference championship game.
I'll surprise you back in the top 10 in terms of the playoff rankings and likelihood and at large.
Yes, and that brings up the next point is if they don't get in, or let's just talk for Utah for just a second. And this is kind of what we brought up with Drake last week, which is. Can the Big 12 get 3 teams in? And I think Utah has kind of laid this foundation with being 13 in the first college football playoff poll. We'll know again Tuesday this week. We're recording on a Monday. We'll know again on Tuesday kind of where the conference stands. I don't think BYU falls below 12. I think there's a realistic possibility they're still as high as 10. Right, I think Tech
that would be awesome.
It'd be great, right? And Utah, I don't think if they slip, they may slip 1 because they didn't play last week. But there is a realistic possibility, and you've got Georgia, I think plays Texas. I think Oklahoma plays Alabama, or vice versa, one of the two. So you've got teams ahead of Utah.
Yeah.
That will probably lose.
And by the way, the ACC crapped the bed this past week.
ACC is going to get one team in the conference.
Yeah.
Their top two dogs both went down.
Yep.
So, and they were behind Utah to begin with.
Yeah, and I think Virginia's their highest ranked team at like 14.
14 was Virginia, 15 was Louisville, and they both lost.
So the ACC is going to get one. If you do the math, right, you look at the top SEC teams. They've got 4.
Yeah.
4 pretty close to locks, I think. The Big Ten realistically could get 4. So you've got 8.
Yeah.
8 teams from both of those conferences that are essentially in. ACC gets 1, that gets you 9. You've got your G5 team that gets you 10.
Yeah, so you have to.
Notre Dame gets you 11.
Yeah, so you're going to have to. Here's the thing with the Big 12 is you're going to have to kick a Big 10 team or an SEC team out, and that's the tough part with the College Football Playoff Committee is we all know
they don't want to do that.
That they're kind of in bed with these 2 big leagues.
But they've set the table for it to. There's a path.
Yes.
I'm confident 2 Big 12 get in.
2 should.
Yeah.
It's still 3, but there would need to be some carnage.
Yeah.
With big programs
you
losing.
need the SEC and the Big Ten to start kind of cannibalizing themselves, much like the ACC is right now.
So I want to take a pause and just kind of talk about emotions, PTSD. It's funny to me this offseason when Jake's leaving. If you ask BYU fans,
not me or him,
not these Jakes,
Mr. Retzloff,
the third Jake,
the third Jake. When Jake was leaving, how many wins is BYU going to have? People were saying, "I hope they get 8. I hope they get 9." Mm-hmm. But then this team grabbed our hearts, and they just kept winning these close games over and over and over. And now it's. If we lose another one, it'd be just devastating. And so much of that is because of the PTSD of last year.
Tiebreakers last year.
We've been here before. And so what's crazy, and I'm calling myself out on this, during that time of unbelief, I actually said I thought BYU was going to only lose 1 game. My co-host Jake thought I was crazy.
I still do.
He told the computer guy, do not post that on social if you watch the whole film. So... But then now, here we are.
I love how you call Sean our computer guy.
I don't want. Yeah. You guys are in this.
Our
scene,
producer
man.
Sean.
I try to elevate him bigger than that. You know, so.
Yeah.
Now here we are, in a world where it's really realistic they could only lose 1, and I don't have that much faith. I'll be real. I think last year has made me. There's no way we're going to win the next 3 games. Like we're beat up. These teams are good.
Yes.
There's too much pressure. I just have a hard time thinking that we're not going to drop at least another one.
This game against TCU will tell us if this year's team is different than last year's. Because obviously it'd be the two in a row. I'm telling you, they have talked. Trust me, I'll go all the way back to training camp. I talked to coaches and players, and they use the term good to great. They were good last year. They went 11-2. That was a good team. Mm-hmm. But in their minds, great is making a Big 12 title game, a chance to win a Big 12 title, playing in the college football playoff. Well, guess what? All that's still out there for them. Yeah. And all they got to do is win.
It's a great time now.
So this TCU game, I think, is going to tell us everything we need to know about this team, whether they are a redux of last year or if they're a new team that learned their lesson from a season ago.
I think this loss, as much as it pains BYU fans after a loss, I think this loss comes at a good time.
In some ways,
because it's not detrimental, right? The season's not over. They
had a mulligan to work with, and this is that mulligan.
They don't have to rely
and if you're
going
to lose one, it should be to the best team you like. That's okay.
And it's to a team that's understable, right? It's not to a Kansas
it's
team.
It's not Kansas.
With an Arizona State looming, and Arizona State's also playing for a conference championship. So you lose to a team that you're expected to lose to. It's your first loss, and then you have I'm not going to say a cupcake schedule because Cincinnati on the road is not going to be an easy task. I think TCU at home is very winnable. Very winnable. And I don't know why. I'm actually surprised. What is like they're like 6.5 point favorite, 6 point favorite BYU is?
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's that low because I think BYU comes out with a completely different focus, a completely renewed focus on the season. Now, that's to me, that's kind of coach speak a little bit. And we haven't even talked about what Chase Roberts said.
Fair.
But
it got acted like it was a guarantee. When I watched it, it wasn't a guarantee. It was him saying, hey, we're going to we just got to win the next 3 games, and then we're in the championship game, and we'll beat Texas Tech.
Yeah. To me, it was just I don't know. If you know Chase Roberts, he's just speaking we want we want to play them again. Like
Correct.
we want the opportunity to prove ourselves, because this is not who we. For those that didn't watch the post game press conference, he basically said we kind of what he said last year against Arizona State. You played it on your podcast.
Essentially, he said, when we get a chance to play them again, we will win that game. And it's been taken as almost a guarantee. But I said to myself, what else do you want him to say in that moment?
Exactly.
Do you want him to say, oh, crap, that sucks?
Season's over.
No, you want that mentality, because the one thing I love about Chase is he's got equal parts arrogance and equal parts humility in him. Because he's an incredible player who backs up everything he says, by and large. I thought he was actually pretty good in that Texas Tech game, all things considered, with the offensive woes that they had. And I appreciate the fact that he's got that mindset of a competitor. Like, no, I want another crack at those guys. We suck today. Give us another chance. That's the right mentality to have. I don't want, to your point, Tosh, him to be like, well, that sucked. Guess season's over, boys. Pack it in.
Yeah, this is a detrimental blow to our team, and we're done for the season.
Yeah.
No one's gonna say that, and so anyway, it'll be interesting to see. We haven't even really broken down TCU, but I'm not incredibly. Josh Huber's a great quarterback, but outside of that, they're not a fantastic team, and I think they're a very, very winnable team at home. And again, I think BYU is going to come with kind of a renewed resolve to win this game. Their backs are against the wall,
correct?
Right? And at the end of the day, like we're going to see how good this team plays when their backs are against the wall. And we saw it a little bit last year against Arizona State. Obviously, different team, different quarterback. Their backs against the wall at halftime. They proved that they can. Now, I wish they would have done it in the first half, right?
Sure.
They had fight.
They showed resolve.
Came a yard away.
And so I hope we see that. I think we will see that against TCU. Cougar alumni know what it means to rise and shout, and that's exactly what TrueWear Services helps your business do. They specialize in merch production, swag, uniforms, custom printing and design, plus web stores and fulfillment, so repping your company, team, or school is seamless. You've built the brand, now it's time to showcase it. Partner with TrueWear Services today and give your organization the same pride and polish you showed in Cougar Blue. Go to truewearservices.com/CougarBoard to get started. Moving on from football, we've got about 5 minutes. Let's talk about basketball a little bit. We're still early in the season, and so I'm super excited to talk more basketball once we get into conference play. There's just not a whole lot to talk about right now. Other than two games.
You tell me you don't want to break down the Holy Cross game?
Well,
0-2 Holy Cross, rolling into 0-2 Delaware.
And if you remember, Jake, we are not a daily podcast.
I know. Your point is well taken, because this basketball team, they got some promise to them. Even though, trust me, Delaware, Holy Cross, they're not going to tell you what you want to know. Villanova, on the other hand, showed us some stuff. What we're going to learn a lot about this team Saturday.
UConn. Yep.
UConn.
Yeah.
In TD Garden, in Boston, homecoming game for AJ DeBonsa. You want to learn everything you need to know about the early part of the season for BYU basketball? It's this Saturday night.
Yeah. And I would argue we don't really even know a whole lot about UConn this year, right? Other than how they played last year and who they've recruited. Like that's these preseason rankings and these kind of, you're 2 games in, you're 1 week into the season. Like even the rankings today, like you just don't know how good these teams are. And so UConn could come in and completely lay an egg. BYU could come in and completely lay an egg. And I think there was a little bit of concern watching the Villanova game. Now they battled it out and played well, and Villanova could very well be a pretty decent team.
That Villanova team is going to win games because they play hard.
Yeah.
Kevin Willard has them playing hard. They may not be uber talented, but that team played hard. The one thing I liked about the Villanova game, 3.5 minutes, that final media time out of the game, from that point on, the execution from BYU was as crisp as I've seen it.
And our defense.
Yes.
Like, our defense just decided,
they Yeah.
That's a great card to be able to play when you need to.
So that's the encouraging part about this basketball team right now, Jake, is that they can lock in. First game of the year, they knew they were in crunch time. All right. This thing's over. We're going to execute our offense. We're going to lock down defense, and they ran away with the win.
Yeah, and I'll say, too, like, and we're going to do a lot of comparing to BYU teams of past.
Sure.
The biggest comparison to me is if you looked at even last year's team, Richie getting sick.
Yeah.
And playing a game sick and going, I don't even know what he was. He was 4 of 13 against Villanova, 1 of 4 from 3.
Yeah.
That's not Richie, right?
No.
We would have lost that game.
We would have been blown out,
Yeah.
I think, in that game. We don't win that game. For BYU to have guys who can take over a game and may take over a game even when Richie's healthy, right? Well, take that pressure off of Richie. Like, that tells us a lot about the depth of this team, at least in the starting lineup. And when I say depth in starting lineup, that doesn't really make sense. But what I mean is there are 3 or 4 guys, I would say 3 decent guys who can take over a game if the other 2 are not playing well.
They have a clear big 3. There's no doubt about it. It's Richie, it's AJ, and it's Rob Wright.
Yeah.
Those 3 are, and you're right, any given night, one of those 3 can go off. And the other thing I like about this is Richie's a guy who plays off of his teammates. That's what he needs guys to kind of tee him up. He's not necessarily the best ISO player, but there have been moments, going even back to last season, that you needed a player who could just go one-on-one and generate a bucket. They didn't really have that
Correct.
last year. You have 2 of those guys this year.
Yeah.
AJ and Rob are very capable.
If you're the opposing team's coach, you're scared.
Yeah.
Because AJ has had multiple flashes already where it's like, wow. Like, we haven't seen that on a BYU floor of somebody at that size doing that. And then Rob, I just smile. He can get to the bucket and into the paint like whenever he wants to. We haven't played anybody yet, and I don't know if we will, that when he wants to get to the rim, that they're going to be able to stop. He gets to the rim.
Yeah, and going back to that Villanova game, there were, I think, 3 possessions in a row, if not like pretty close to each other, where it was literally like a 2-man game with Keba and either Rob Wright or AJ, where Keba brings the screen, the ball handler, and it's kind of what Dallin Hall was really good at last year with Foose. Which is this like snake dribble, right? So you kind of follow your screener back into the paint, and then you weave back to the other side, and the screener, as long as the screener is attempting to call for the ball, essentially, like it's essentially a moving screen, right?
It's like you're blocking as an offensive lineman, but you're right. It works because as long as they have their hand up, like they're asking for the ball, there's nothing they can call.
You're sealing your guy, right? So you do this snake dribble to get around him, and you have an open lane to the basket. Rob Wright ran that twice in a row. The exact same outcome both times, and I'm pretty sure AJ ran it again as well for a shot at the rim, if not close to the rim. And so you talk about execution down the stretch. It's not like complicating.
It's not rocket science.
No, you're not running like massive sets, and I think that's what makes good teams great. Is you've got a player that when I think by the end of the game, and there's something to be said, I think about. Teams kind of figuring each other out throughout the game is when you run enough sets enough times, the defense figures it out. And so when you're in minute 38, 39, close to 40, right? Teams figure your defensive sets out, and you just have to go ISO ball. And BYU historically has not really had great ISO ball players. They've got 2 this year, maybe 3. And so you talk about execution, you run this 2-man pick and roll game, and that can work to perfection 3 or 4 possessions in a row. Super simple offense, super reliable outcomes. That's what BYU has this year that they haven't had in past years.
The biggest question for this BYU basketball team, and it's been evident through 2 games, is the 3-point shooting's not been stellar. And there was a question mark coming into the season because you didn't necessarily have, like Tyler Mears was thought to be a good shooter. He's coming from Idaho. Who knows what the translation level is from Idaho up to BYU, but eventually I think that 3-point shooting will come around, especially led by Richie. But in the meantime, to your point, Jake, that 2-man game, guess what? The NBA, I watch a lot of NBA basketball, covering the Utah Jazz like I do. The 2-man game in the NBA is the most dominant thing there is in the sport right now, outside of an ISO player.
In crunch time, right?
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
say in clutch time, right?
You have essentially 2 guys. You're telling your guys, when you're calling plays from the sideline, it's essentially you have your best 2 guys, and you're saying, you're playing off one another. Go do that thing. And that's what BYU has. They have a trio that any one of the combination of them can do that.
And we're not used to having a BYU team that can win without a lot of shooters.
Yes.
And so I think this just feels different.
It's going to be a different look this year.
Correct.
And Kevin talked about it after the Holy Cross game. They scored 62 of their points in the paint. And it was asked, like, hey, what's about the 3-point shooting? This is a different looking team. We built the team to be able to have its versatility and be able to play more at the rim. That's a great thing to have because the most high percentage shot in basketball is right at the rim.
Yeah, let's keep dunking there.
Yeah. Lots of storylines I think that will follow kind of throughout the year. Keba Cade is obviously a massive storyline. We didn't talk a whole lot about him during week 1. We'll have plenty of opportunities later down the road. I think Kadim Boop.
The pronunciation has gone all over the place, but
we've got 2 guys with a random M at the beginning of their last name.
And I think one is said a lot, and the other one said basically none.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, so I think he's been a great revelation for this team. He's just a hustle guy. We'll talk more about him, I think, throughout the season. But some great bright spots, I think, as the season progresses, we'll be able to talk about. But this team's fun, and I think we'll get to know a lot about this team's fortitude and skill set and skill level against a UConn team that comes in. What are they, top 5?
They're the 3 today. They came out as 3 today.
Yeah.
By the way, somehow Houston went from 2-1 with Purdue dropping down. Did Purdue not win at a high enough level?
Yeah, it's strange.
To your point about these early season
It's
polls,
a crapshoot. Yeah.
Like, how does Houston move up? But nonetheless,
It's fun. We're part of it.
Yeah,
BYU moved up.
They moved up to 7. So sweet.
Because we have star power.
Correct. We beat Villanova, man.
Yeah.
The power of the Big East.
There you go.
All right, Jake Hatch, thank you as always for hopping on.
Thanks for having me.
Tosh, also thank you. I know you're a regular, but always
I'm
appreciate
happy
it.
to be here. Grateful to be here myself.
We didn't even talk about your elk hunt. Maybe we can talk about that next week.
Locked on Big 12.
We almost didn't have Tosh.
There we go. Yeah.
You were almost so Tosh bagged an elk over the weekend. If you didn't bag an elk over the weekend, we would not
I
have
was
had you
supposed
this
to
week.
be elk hunting right now, but things came together.
Yeah,
Maybe
there you
story for another show. Loyal Elk Hunters podcast.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for watching. And if you like what you saw or like what you heard, please head over to YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, comment. Also, leave us some reviews on wherever you get your podcasts. Mm-hmm. Also, head over to Locked On Cougars and give Jake Hatch some love.
Okay, let me just tell your listeners real quick. The little thumbs up deal on YouTube, people don't realize that's the simplest thing they can do as a listener, as a podcast consumer, has the biggest impact on the algorithm of anything in social media right now. So if you don't do it for these guys, do it
for
right
him.
now.
Do it for this guy.
Yeah, do it for me.
Do it for both of us.
I'm just telling you,
thumbs up.
that thumbs up, it's simple, but it's major in terms of its ability to boost the show.
Nice.
As I think as Drake Toll says, if you like, we get to keep our job.
If you subscribe, we get to keep our job.
That's right. We have day jobs, so that's not true for us, but we still appreciate it. All right, this is the Loyal Cougars podcast. That's Jake Hatch. That's Tosh McIntosh. I'm Jake Edmonds. We'll see you next week.